We've all seen AI videos and images that look real, feel real, and provide real emotions. As a result, there's a lot of discussion right now about what's real and what's not. This is already starting to become an issue. The use of AI-generated content that intentionally distorts reality is only at the beginning of a much longer journey. And the volume that's coming will likely challenge how we choose what to trust. But most discussions on this subject react to the tools rather than the structure that created the situation in the first place. So in this video, I'm going to explore the problem of AI fakery, but I'm not going to blame AI. Because to be honest with you, it's a symptom, not the cause. And blaming a particular technology never gets you to the root of the problem. So instead, I'm going to focus on trying to understand the system that got us to where we are, the structure that made all of this possible. Because understanding the mechanisms that allow deepfakes to flourish is the best way to protect yourself in what lies ahead. The first thing you need to appreciate is that social media platforms are not designed to show us what's true. They're designed with one core mission in mind: to show us things that grab our attention and engage us. That might sound a bit underhand or morally wrong, but it's not really. It's structural. Engagement is measurable and scalable, whereas truth is not. Algorithms filter billions of posts every day based on how we react to them. They prioritize content in direct response to our behavior. What we pause on, comment on, share with our friends, and agree with or argue about. That's how social media works. It's just a colossal engagement machine running on silent code. A machine that makes huge profits for platforms by incentivizing people to upload content in return for validation and ad revenue. Because of that, over time, platforms and creators began following a simple rule. The more attention a post can get, the greater the reward. And so engagement has become the defining incentive in the online world, and a very lucrative one if you know how to play the game. The result is that content creators now optimize their output to engage us. Most aren't uploading to spread truth, educate us, or make the world a better place, although, of course, there are lots of people that do that. But many have just one aim: to connect you with their content for as long as possible to make money. That's the goal. This isn't about morality, it's about incentives. If a system rewards engagement above all else, then engagement becomes the target. The problem isn't the process as such, but the things that make people stop in their tracks mid-scroll. Surprise, shock, outrage, and ambiguity. Basically anything that disrupts a user's flow when they're scrolling endlessly through their feeds. As a result of this, over the past 2 decades, the process of optimizing engagement has steadily compounded. When one person raises the shock level to this point, another will raise it to that point. It's a competitive market. So clickbait becomes normal, thumbnails become louder, and the titles of videos become more extreme. It's important to realize that this escalation wasn't planned, but it also wasn't random. It's just a natural byproduct of optimization. Until recently, anyone who wanted to create content for social media faced constraints. Creating high-impact content required time, skill, money, and access. The production process was full of friction, which acted as a natural limiter. But then generative AI entered the scene. Tools so powerful that they can create unbelievably realistic images, audio, and video from simple text prompts. Almost overnight, the bottleneck collapsed. Now one individual can produce dozens of high-impact images or videos in a single day. Not weeks or months, days. And here's the issue. If engagement is the currency and AI is now the printing press, then the system will become flooded with whatever maximizes people's attention. Real or fake, love or hate, accurate or misleading, algorithms don't know the difference. They only know what our reaction is. This is a clear example of a vulnerable incentive structure meeting an exceptionally powerful technology. And so in this context, we can predict the future with what I think is a fairly high level of accuracy. Volume will increase massively, the extreme nature of content will increase notably, and trust will fall to even lower lows. Not because anyone is masterminding an escalation in fake content, but because we built a system that rewards anything that engages us. You have almost certainly experienced AI-generated content in your feed many times over the past year. Some were obviously AI-generated and absurd. Some have made you question whether they're real or not, while others you maybe didn't even spot and just accepted as real. A lot are now clearly labelled as AI, but others aren't. And both are shared just as widely. And I think some creators are adopting a powerful but worrying tactic. They've realised that if people immediately know something is fake, they'll scroll past it. So they produce content designed to look just real enough, just believable and ambiguous enough that it gets you to click and keeps you there once you have. And that's where the problem begins. It isn't that everyone believes everything they see. They don't. People aren't stupid. It's that their certainty in what's true and what's not begins to dissolve. When enough synthetic content floods the internet, our trust in what we see will begin to fragment. That's already starting to happen. And soon people will start to ask a new question. Not, is this real? But can I trust anything I see now? When that question becomes commonplace, the information landscape changes. Some people will head towards traditional media institutions like the BBC in the UK or PBS in the States. Some will retreat into curated echo chambers where their biases are reinforced by everything they see. Others might disengage entirely, losing trust in both mainstream media and social media. And so the risk isn't just that we might be misled, it's that we become tired of trying to separate fantasy from reality. Because when people stop knowing what to believe, many may simply stop caring. And that could be the most damaging consequence of what we're starting to see. There are a few possible solutions we might start to explore as all of this unfolds. One is the rise of verification systems, cryptographic signatures, camera-level authentication, and provenance tracking. But these things are complex, fragmented, and unfortunately quite easy to disrupt at scale. Another possibility is something I've already mentioned, people gravitating towards established institutions and recognised media outlets, choosing verified sources over feeds and curated information over the randomness of algorithms. And then there's a less obvious shift, one that seems unlikely at first, but makes sense when you start to think about it. A renewed appreciation for real-world evidence, an understanding that first-hand experience has real value in the complex digital world we've created. Being somewhere and seeing something for ourselves, talking to real people who we sense we can trust. In many ways, this will be less of a collapse and more of a return to behaviour of the past. For most of human history, truth was local, and now it seems that mass media may have just given us a brief illusion of a single shared reality, one that AI may have brought to an end. Not ending truth itself, but the assumption that what we see second-hand is a reflection of reality. So what can you do with all this? Well, first, I think it's important to recognise that we're not descending into some kind of chaos. We're experiencing the negative consequences of optimisation. When you take into account that platforms reward engagement and that AI lowers the cost of producing engagement, the result becomes logical and obvious. And that understanding can really help with how you deal with what's coming. Instead of reacting emotionally, you start seeing things structurally. Instead of thinking AI-generated content should be stopped, you start realizing that isn't really the problem. The blame doesn't lie in a singular tool, but in the incentive structures that drive our systems. That shift alone is powerful because it makes us realize that the systems that drive social media are reactive and vulnerable. They always have been. And it reminds us that while algorithms may shape what we see, they don't have to control what we think. When you know what's fed to you is the result of a system fine-tuned to engage you, you're better able to see through it. It can also encourage practical shifts like diversifying where you get your information, valuing slower sources, accessing channels with editorial oversight, and prioritizing direct experience over mediated outrage. Perhaps most of all, it underlines the fact that instead of leaning into panic, we need to expand our literacy, because knowledge is power. And once you see the system, it loses the emotional advantage it once had over you. AI didn't invent the distortion of truth, humans did, but it will accelerate it. The issue isn't the tools we use, but the structures in which we use those tools. And when you understand the structure, you start to learn how to navigate the landscape. That really is the point. The surge in AI-generated content shouldn't lead to fear or outrage, but it should shine a light on the systems we've built, systems that allow it to flourish. The final thing I want to say is that systems evolve. And over time, detection tools will improve and verification standards may well develop. Importantly, cultural literacy will inevitably rise, so this is unlikely to be some kind of huge collapse, but the coming years will be turbulent. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. This video was based on my writing over at layeredfuture.com. If you'd like to explore the full article or browse through other topics, you'll find it all there.